Welcome in. Special edition of Monday Live here on a Tuesday night. Had to reschedule this week, family things and all. Every now and then something comes up. Appreciate everybody who is tuning in on a special occasion here tonight. Yeah, I'm going to eat a little crow. We'll talk a little baseball. I even got a little recruiting news to share. I guess we'll start off with the eating of some crow, man. I went on a little rant on this show last week. Um, Zach even clipped it and posted it all over social media. Where I was talking about the basketball team just can't finish, can't get over the hump, yada yada yada. Man, 2 days later, or actually the next day, they go to Chapel Hill, win, never trail, you know, race out to a big lead early. North Carolina battles back, ties it up at 70-70 with about 4 minutes to go, and Clemson makes the plays and finishes it down the stretch. Um, you know, Same thing up there at Syracuse. They get out to a lead. Syracuse, not quite the same regard as they did at North Carolina, but Syracuse battles back in the second half, ties it up. I think there was about 4 minutes left in that one too, and again, they make the plays down the stretch. Joe Girard seems to have found his shooting stroke. He played so much better in that game against North Carolina last week as opposed to the first time they played North Carolina. Um, he he hit it to 2,000 point mark in his career in that game. Um, him and PJ both went over 20 in the win over North Carolina. Last time I looked, they were sitting at number 29 in the net. I don't know if that's changed today. I think I checked that this morning, so that might be where they're still sitting. Only team in the country that has two road wins against teams currently ranked inside the top 10 of the net. North Carolina, Alabama. Um, you know, Building a pretty strong resume. It's amazing the difference a couple of games can make. And first time they've won back to back ACC wins all season, and again, you do it on the road. Now you got to come back home tomorrow night and do it at home. You know, Little John's a place they've been struggling when it comes to shooting the ball lately. So now you got to come in and see if that you can continue that momentum and do it at home and against a team that's already beat you already this year. Miami comes to town, and this is a team these games typically are good when Clemson and Miami hook up. So I would expect nothing different this time. I would think it would be another pretty good game, and if they're going to win, they're going to have to make some plays down the stretch, just like they did against North Carolina and Syracuse. Say another thing about this past two games. I thought the offenses looked much crisper, a little more efficient, a lot more movement, not quite as much standing around. And to me, while PJ Hall and Joe Girard get a lot of the attention because of the score, and I think Chase Hunter's played really well defensively and offensively. He's not scoring a ton of points, but I think he had 7 assists against Syracuse. He's being more aggressive. Um, and Jack Clark's been a big cog on the boards, just adding to what Ian Shefflin already does. So, just playing a whole lot better. Maybe it just took them winning one to kind of get them over that hump. We'll see. Still some season to be played, but I kind of talked some about last week how you find out about a team when it's not going well, and it wasn't going well for a while there for them for a little while there. Um, 2 wins in a row can do a lot for some confidence, and they looked a lot better up there this last week as opposed to the previous 3-4 weeks. Opening day Friday. Eric Beckett still not naming his starting rotation. Said today that full disclosure, I was not there, so I had to listen to what he said on tape. But said today that some guys are still going to be sounds like not everybody's all the way stretched out yet. Obviously they haven't been practicing all that long. Um, you only get a couple weeks before the season to get amped up, and sometimes guys don't get stretched out all the way. So expect some pitchers to be on inning or pitch counts this weekend. Um, wouldn't expect anybody to go deep. Matter of fact, he said Austin Gordon was going to be on a really limited pitch count, is what it sounded like. He's a guy they shut down, late in the year, and he's definitely not all the way stretched back out yet. And that might be a little bit of the reason why he's got hit hard a couple of times I've seen him. Um, but it'll be interesting to see what he does with that pitching this weekend. Fortunately for them, they got some options out there. They got some depth. Um, so there'll be different ways he can go about it when he fills out that lineup card every day. And some recruiting news. Yes, it's a dead period. Touch base with wide receiver Cortez Mills today. And I am going to break it to y'all before I break it to anybody on the site tomorrow. He will be back for the spring game, April. What is April the 6th? Whatever date the spring game is, that is the day Cortez Mills plans to be back. Clemson's already got Juju Preston on board. I don't – he's really the only one I count as a wide receiver because they took Marquise Henderson as an athlete, although I could see him ending up at receiver. We'll see. I mean, if they – I'm not sure anybody's going to leave receiver-wise after the season. You never know with the portal and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out at receiver the rest of the way. But I expect them to take one more. And, Mills would be one of the guys at the top of the board for me. He was probably the best receiver I saw at camp last year. 6'2", man. He can fly. To me, he's one of the better receiver prospects in the country. And I think it's big that they're getting him back for the spring game. He's not been to campus since camp last summer. So big that they're getting him back. And one more thing to add. We're going to have, since we're doing this on a Tuesday, I'm about to, can't really run over tonight. So once we get closer to 8, I'm going to be shutting it down. Got things I got to do tonight. Got to get out of here. Got somewhere to be. So we're going to have a pretty hard cutoff of about 8 tonight. Just so everybody's aware. Thrilled with the past 2 basketball games. Still not able to get too confident yet, though. Yeah, I don't blame you. Kind of sounds like me back before. I think I touched on this a little bit last week, but I used to be very emotionally invested in Clemson athletics, football, baseball, basketball, to the point where sometimes when the football team lost, man, I wouldn't sleep good for 2 or 3 days because it just bothered me so much. And that's where you're describing the way I used to be during the Tommy Bowden years, man. No matter what happened, I had, in the early Dabo years, I had no confidence in Clemson getting over that hump. You just knew that gut punch was coming because it always came at some point, so you knew it was coming. My confidence level in it, I'll never forget in the football program, it kind of changed in 2015 when they beat Florida State at home that day when Gallman ran that ball in. But similar with the basketball program, they've not really given you a lot of reason to be that confident. It's as big as those 2 wins were, still only 2 games. More work to be done for sure, especially when it comes to trying to get the fans to start really believing again. Because I think the fan base was on board with this team coming out of the non-conference. 11-1. You got some big wins under your belt. Some of them away from home. There was a lot of reasons to be excited about this team, and they kind of hit some roadblocks once league play started. I do think the ACC is getting a bad rap this year. That they're kind of being portrayed to be down again. Why the Big 12's being portrayed to be this big powerhouse. I think the Big 12's got 10 teams projected in the tournament right now. And they're being propped up in the net rankings because they played nobody in the out of conference unless you're Kansas. And I think Baylor played a pretty decent out of conference late. Nobody else did. So you play this weak competition in the non-conference, boat race them and blow their doors off, and you're propped up in the net rankings before conference play starts. All of them are. Then once they start playing each other and kind of beating up on one another, they push the same narrative as they do about the SEC in football. They're just good team, really good teams beating up on one another. I think we talked about the Big 12 out of conference schedule strength on one of the shows a couple weeks ago, and I looked them up again last night. They're atrocious, man. Absolutely atrocious. All of them except for Kansas is the only team that's got a out of conference schedule ranked inside the top 100, if I'm not mistaken. And Baylor's is somewhere just outside the top 100, and then you got a bunch ranked in the 200s and 300s. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will eat. I will eat crow when I need to, man. Absolutely. I have no problem doing that. Don't always taste very good, but sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. And I kind of went in hard on them a little bit last week. So, that matter of fact, the day that Zach clipped that thing and started posting it around on social media, that was Tuesday morning, the day of the North Carolina game. So that thing did not age well at all. Did not age well at all. Nah, all you guys that tune in, man, y'all, yeah, that's the goat. That's the goat. Everybody that tunes in, if y'all didn't tune in every week, we wouldn't have a show, man. All the credit goes to the fans. Gonna do just enough to keep his job. It's an annual thing. See, I don't necessarily agree with this. I don't think it really is an annual thing. I think they deserved to get in last year. It's not an annual thing of Clemson getting in the tournament, and I think it's tournament or bust for Brian O this year. I think he's got to get in, and they've done far more than enough to be in right now. They're not like sitting on the bubble or anything. Maybe they will be when we get there, and then they barely get in and then lose in the first round. Maybe you got a little bit of an argument there. Still not sure I'm going to agree with it, though, because you're talking about a program that's only been 3 times in 15 years. If you get in, that's an accomplishment. I don't know if I would say that's just doing barely enough to keep your job. You were given a goal for the season pretty much, of getting in. And if you get in, you get in. I think if Clemson gets in the tournament and then turns around and fires the coach that got them in the tournament, you might be hard pressed to find the next guy. Nobody's going to want to come to Clemson knowing they could get fired for not making the tournament at a program that's got such a lackluster history of making the tournament. Matthew says Clemson's number 30 in the net right now. That is interesting because they were 29 earlier this morning and no games have been played since. Man, I'm telling you, I hate the net. They are such trash rankings, man. You move up when you lose. You don't move up when you win. I hate the term good loss. To me, no loss is a good loss. I hate the net rankings. I've just not been able to rag on them as much this year as I did last year. Clark has give a spark. Look for his shooting to get better. Maybe 14 points. Anything you get out of Jack Clark, man, is good. Bonus. You didn't have him at all for a good while there, and listening to Brad Brownell, he's not healthy, and he's not going to be fully healthy the rest of the way. He's got something he's dealing with, and he's going to be dealing with it throughout, and he's kind of soldiering through. But he's If they could get a little bit more scoring from him, that'd be great, man. But he's been pretty good on the defensive end. Pretty good. Team has to go 11-9 in ACC play it again. Hey, haven't you heard, man, that the conference, what you do in your conference doesn't really is not a bullet point or a measuring stick for getting in the tournament. That's the new thing there, man. Oh, I've been hearing that and seeing that some the last few days. It's just absurd. As far as the going 11-9, I'm not on my laptop today, so right now they're 6-6. So that would put you going 5-3 down the stretch. I think this team should be better than 5-3 down the stretch. Like you know, I thought they had to go 8-2, 7-3 last week, and they're already 2-0. But yeah, 5-3 would probably have them solidly in 11-9 in the league, depending on who those losses came to. You don't want to lose to Georgia Tech's one that you don't want to lose to. That's going to be a quad 3 game. Syracuse probably could very well be a quad 3 game once it rolls around, depending on what they do the rest of the way. But those are the ones you don't want to lose. Those quad 3 and quad 4 games. But the schedule's not nearly as backloaded as it was. It's not nearly as tough as it was over the first half. So we'll see. It wouldn't shock me at all to see them just. I can't say I would be surprised if they choked it up and went 5-5, or not 5-5, but 3-5 to end the season, because there's 8 games left, I think. But I can't say that would shock me at all, and then be left out. We've seen this team play that way. So right now, it's kind of hit or miss. But I will say that there is a lot to build off of what you've seen the past 2 weeks. Chauncey has been a factor some too. Yeah, like to see him shooting a little better, but sometimes depending on who they play, Brownell goes smaller, and sometimes he's not on the floor. But I think Chauncey's a guy that could take a big jump between this year and next year. He took it, he's a lot further along now than he was this time a year ago. But I think his biggest jump's probably going to come between or over this coming off season. He's a guy I think can help you a lot next year, assuming he takes that jump, which I think he will. If I had to take a guess at the starting rotation, Gordon, Smith, Barlow. Yeah, I could see it being that way. I could see Gordon not being in it this week the way Backus talked today. But I fully expect once you start getting, after the first couple of weeks and they start trying to get that rotation set in stone, I fully expect Gordon to be in it. Wouldn't shock me if Billy Barlow isn't the Friday guy. And I'd be a little bit surprised if Matt Marshall's not in the rotation. He's started more games than anybody on that roster has. A lot of experience. He was really good, at Wofford. So I could see him being in the rotation. When you only got 4 guys and you got 5 or 6 kind of competing for those spots, man, it makes it interesting. But it also makes your bullpen that much better. And I think that's where Clemson can be strong this year, is in that bullpen. Who do you see being the starting cornerbacks and safeties next year? Obviously Avion Terrell is probably going to be a starter. I could see, and if you can find if Jaden Lucas can catch a break and stay healthy, I think he's hard to keep off the field. Wouldn't shock me if those are your two starting corners, but Shelton Lewis is going to be really good. I think he's got an extremely high ceiling, and they're going to benefit greatly from him having gotten that experience he got as a freshman. That might be a battle next year with Lucas and Lewis over there opposite of Terrell. Safety, that one's a little bit harder. Obviously, you got Barnes, and Clemson's playing a lot of three safety looks now. Obviously, Barnes is going to be one. Trying to think who all it is, man. I'm kind of got football off the brain right now. Mickens will be back. You probably see a lot of him. There's one more. I know there's one more that I'm missing, but I don't want to say another one because I'm probably gonna miss somebody. But that's how I see. That's how I would see it playing out at corner. I think safety. There, you got some more depth. You got some depth there, and you got some options. But Mickens, Barnes, they got two Collins at safety. The older one that played some this past season was a Webb, or Griffin. I get them mixed up. Whichever one is the older one. See him cracking the two deep. See, I'm telling you, I'm missing somebody. I cannot think of who it is off the top of my head. I got football off the brain right now. You have to forgive me, but Mickens, Barnes, Kylan, and then at corner Terrell, Lucas, and Lewis. If you can keep Lucas healthy, because he's had some bad luck his first two seasons, but that guy is athletic. He's long, dynamic. I think he's got just as high a ceiling as about any corner on that roster. We just haven't seen much of him because he's been hurt. Sammy Brown, what type of impact? Sammy Brown's going to be in the two deep. That there's Clemson doesn't have a ton of depth at linebacker. Obviously, Barrett Carter is going to be one of your starters, and probably Wade Woodaz is your other starter. But I think Sammy Brown's going to be on the field a lot. We'll see if Clemson maybe goes back to playing more 4-3 than they did last year, because they played a lot of 4-2-5 last year with only two linebackers on the field. But a lot of that's going to depend on where Sammy is come fall camp. There's a lot that goes into playing linebacker. There's a lot to learn. But I have every bit of confidence that he'll soak it up and he'll be fine. He'll be in the rotation. It'll be just whether he starts or not. I don't know if I'd go that far, seeing as you got Carter back and Woodaz back, and they've got so much more experience than he does. But for me, it's going to be whether they go back to playing more 4-3 with three linebackers. And maybe Woodaz playing some Sam, or heck, we've seen Carter play Sam in the past. He's gonna have a couple different ways he can go. It'll be interesting to see the way he chooses to go. To make the NCAA term, what does Clemson have to do? What do they have to do? I think they got to go 5-3. But if two of those three losses are to say Georgia Tech on the road, which will be a quad 3 from the way it's looking right now, and Syracuse at home, which looks like it could be a quad 3, you might start playing with a little bit of fire. It just depends. I think Clemson's probably safe if they go 5-3 down the stretch, because right now they're solidly in. I think they're, depending on where you look, no lower than a 7 seed. They're projected no lower than a 7 seed, if I'm not mistaken. Virginia's projected as an 8, and obviously Duke and North Carolina look like locks right now. Those are the only 4 teams projected in the ACC to make it right now, believe it or not. But I would say Clemson's got to go no worse than 5-3. If you go 5-3 down the stretch, that puts you at 11-9 in league play and 21-10 overall. Obviously you got the ACC tournament to factor in too. But that would be what I would say, 5-3. What is the deal with DJ Pickett? Yeah, I've never had a conversation with DJ Pickett, so I can only tell you what I've been told. And that was all after his visit, it supposedly went great, and they were selling him on playing both offense and defense, and he liked that. That he was something that really piqued his interest. But you just don't ever know. Some kids, Clemson's not for everybody. It's a little different, than a lot of other schools out there. They do things differently with that the way Dabo's got that culture implemented there, and it's not for everybody. It's just not. They're not gonna give you NIL money just to come. You got to come, earn it. There's NIL money to be made at Clemson, but they're not gonna say here, we'll give you this much just to come sign. That's not how they do business. And I'm not saying that's why Pickett's that's why Pickett doesn't have Clemson in his top 5. I'm just saying that's one reason in how Clemson does things different on the recruiting trail. So yeah, Pickett's not a guy that I ever really, tracked all that closely, to be quite honest, because I didn't think Clemson had a very realistic shot. So I can't tell you the specific reasons of why they were left out of his top 5. I'll just say, his original top 5, they weren't in it either, which he visited after he released that original top 5. But I kind of did think they'd make the top 5. I wasn't sure that he'd ever get back for another visit or they'd ever have a realistic shot at landing him, but I kind of thought they'd make the top 5. But it just goes to show you, man, what Clemson offers does not appeal to everybody. Some kids don't want to go to a college that's kind of tucked out in the middle of nowhere to where Clemson, the way Clemson is. There's not a lot to do there on campus, as opposed to a school like South Carolina where it's in Columbia and everything's right. You're living in the capital city. If you're in Clemson and want to go experience that kind of stuff, you got to drive to Atlanta or Greenville. You can't just go right down the road. So you never know. Just I can't tell you the specific reasoning as to why he left them out. Could be a number of things. But yeah, you're right. By all accounts, the visit went as well as it could have. He liked what he heard from the coaches and their plans for him if he were to come to Clemson, and not even make the top 5. That's the way it is sometimes. What's worse, the net rankings for basketball or the pool brackets in baseball? Oh man, geez, that's a hard one because I think they're both pretty freaking terrible. I hate pool play. I think it is a joke. Um, but I understand why they do it. I know some of the coaches like it. Eric Backets doesn't care for it, but I know some coaches in the ACC do like it. It's supposed to kind of save you. Don't put so much wear and tear on your pitchers over that short period of time as opposed to playing in a double elimination tournament. Man, they're both way up there for me because I hate both of them. It's hard for me to pick one. I think pool play is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, and I think the net rankings are hot trash. Hold on, I'm trying to look something up right here. If they go 3-5, what's going to be the excuses for Brown? If they go 3-5 down the stretch, there are no excuses. I mean, if they don't get in, I'm telling you, I would fully 100% believe tournament or bust this year. I you know I if Clemson does not get in the tournament this year, I you got to take a long hard look at things. Let's just put it that way. Is Jason surprising his wife for baseball tickets for Valentine's Day? No, absolutely not. My wife, she does not like going to sporting events with me any longer because if she goes, that means she has to sit up there by herself, and she don't care for that very much. So, no, to answer your questions. Thoughts on seeing three different D tackles with Woods or Story at end with lack of proven depth at defensive end? I think Clemson. I'm still not buying the fact that Clemson's totally shut the door on taking an end out of the portal before next season. Let's put it that way. Um, I know Dabo's talked about moving Woods outside if you have to, and that's probably the last option on the table. While I think he's certainly capable of playing out there, um, I don't think you'll see Woods and Story both at defensive end at the same time when you got Parker on the other side. But um, I think you'll see him go through the spring and let Rump see what he's got to work with and then make a decision. And if they feel like they need another body, you can go grab one, in the next portal window. I think AJ Hoffler's got an extremely high ceiling. I think Darian Mayo's got an extremely high ceiling, but neither one of them are proven. Hoffler didn't play very much at all last year. Mayo's not enrolling early. Although I've talked about this before, they've got, they've got a plan in place to ensure he's physically and mentally ready when he gets here. They got a detailed plan in place for him to, like workout plan and stuff. They got a bunch of Zoom calls set up to make sure he knows the playbook and those things with some coaches and players and stuff. And so he should be up to speed when he gets here. I think he's going to have an opportunity to play quickly. It'll just depend on if he can soak it all in. But that's going to be one of the more interesting storylines in the spring. How things shake out at defensive end and whether or not they actually do decide to look at an end in the portal. Because again, I don't think that conversation's over. Maybe you get to the end of spring and Chris Rumpf likes what he has and says, "Look, we don't need anybody else. I think I can work with what I have." Um, but I don't think the conversation's dead and buried just yet. As for Woods moving outside, again, I think he's capable of doing that just in the same way Christian Wilkins was able to do it. But I certainly, if I had my preference, he stays inside. Because I think that's where he's better suited to play. So it will be interesting to see how the depth chart shakes out as we go through spring and where it is once the spring's over. Because you don't take the proven word out of there and proven depth. You don't have a whole lot of talent there, period, in my opinion. You got Parker, you got Hoffler, you got Mayo. And to me, that's about it. Zaire Patterson's done nothing to give me any faith in his ability to get on the field this year. He's been there 3 years. We haven't really seen him. We'll see what Cade Denoff can do under Chris Rump's tutelage. Maybe he takes this big jump, but I wouldn't bet on it. And those were two guys that were very highly touted coming out of high school, so it's not like they were, bums they signed or anything like that. Those were two blue chip guys. But to me, it starts with Parker, and then it's Hoffler and Mayo, and then everybody else. I'm still buying Noble Johnson. I've liked him since the first time I laid eyes on him at camp. When he picked up his offer summer before last, it was just pretty apparent last spring when you see him in the spring game. It was pretty obvious he was a guy that's going to need a year. Now, is he a Sammy Watkins or Nuke Hopkins type guy? Probably not. He's not the guy. He's definitely not this true boundary guy that can come in, and he's not a TJ Moore or Bryant Westcott, but I think he can be a very good number two or type of possession receiver, so to speak. He's got really good hands. He gets in and out of his breaks really well. I wouldn't say he's got, burner type speed, but he's a really good route runner. There's a lot to like about him. I don't see him being a number one type guy, primary receiver at the boundary or anything, but I think he can be a really good complementary piece. Yeah, I'm still buying him. Yes, I told you I was forgetting somebody, Sherrod Coble, even though he did tear ACL last year, so we'll see where he is in the spring, but I knew I was forgetting somebody. That guy's like a heat-seeking missile. Tavoy Fegan. Yeah, I can see him playing some this year. Is he going to be like a big contributor? I don't know. Mike Reed's not scared to play as freshman. We've seen that in the past. It might depend on injuries to guys in front of him or whatever. But you also got Corey and Gibson coming in this class, who's going to be really good. But it's going to be hard for either one of those freshmen to come in and beat out Avion Terrell or even Shelton Lewis or a healthy Jaden Lucas. I think those guys are just that good. That's not to say those freshmen aren't. It's just those other guys have a leg up on those freshmen. Could he play some this year? Sure. Is it going to be significant playing time? I guess and that might depend on your definition of significant. I don't know that I would predict him to be into too deep as we sit here right now, but I like both those freshman corners, man. There's a reason his nickname's Seatbelt. He's good. Fegan is a guy that doesn't get talked about a lot because, they also signed Corey and Gibson, but I think Fegan's a guy that's been a little underrated by the services. Um, he's got an extremely high ceiling. And any cornerback Mike Reed likes, I like. That guy's always going to get the benefit of the doubt with me. 100% every single time. Baseball predictions. Look, man, I've got high expectations for the baseball team this year. And I think Eric Backus does too. He I think he's going to have high expectations every year, but he talked a little bit about it today. He's interested to see how his team, responds to some of the expectations this season after there weren't really any in year one under Backich. But expectations inside that building are high, man. They have really tried to use the way last season ended to kind of fuel themselves over the offseason. Backus told me last week when I had a one-on-one with him last week, and he said he hasn't really, had to say a whole lot to these kids over the offseason. Man, they came in fired up, focused, and ready to go because of what happened last year. It left a bitter taste in their mouth. But I think this team's got the potential to make a deep run, but it's baseball. You're going to need a couple breaks to go your way. You're going to have to stay healthy because we saw last year they had some issues with a handful of pitchers getting hurt, and it had an impact on last season. Particularly Ryan Ammons and Billy Barlow. So you always got to have the health thing go your way, but I think this team is poised to break the regional drought. You've got the pitching. You've got plenty of depth in that bullpen. And Backich told me that this is the 1 to 40. This is deepest team. Roster wise. The only thing when I asked him about this being one of the deepest teams he's had, the only thing he said was to remember that 2019 Michigan team had 3 second rounders in the rotation, 3 second rounders as their weekend starters. So he said that was to be determined, but 1 through 40, deepest team, ton of talent. And I think you got the right mix of older guys and youth with freshmen like Jaron Purify, Devin Parks, Aiden Knott, Drew Titsworth, Justin LeGuernick. I think those are all guys that could potentially help you. I think Parks is going to play a lot. Don't know about Purify yet. We'll see. I've seen him at second some, and I've seen him at third some. Obviously, Blake Wright's going to be your second baseman, so he's not playing there. Third base is up for grabs. We'll see if he's good enough to win that job. I think you'll see some different people play in third and early in the season to see if somebody can, kind of grab that bull by the horns and win that job. I've also seen Nolan Rocky over there some. I want to say Cooper Blauser's played over there some. He's played first too, but I think this team's got potential to be really good, really, really good. And Eric Backus makes no bones about it, man. The goal for him every year, Omaha, every year. And I'll say one last thing. And I'll start it off by saying I loved it. I loved the Monty Lee hire. I thought he was the right hire when Clemson made him. Whatever reason, didn't work out. I got my opinions on why. I've shared them here many times. But bottom line is it didn't work out. You had to make a change. The program was just kind of falling further and further behind as he got deeper into his tenure. But I think Clemson now has the right guy in the right job at the right time. Bakich was a candidate to get the job when Monty was hired. Man, it'd be interesting to see what would have happened if they'd hired him back then. Because I have really liked that guy from the first day I met him. He is the epitome of what I think a baseball coach at this level should be. He's so detail oriented. The players, most of them seem to love him. He's a guy that they want to go out and play for. So I think this is a team that should get out of the regional round this year. I think this is a team that's good enough to host and good enough to get out. They got the pitching, they got the hitting. The only thing I think will be a little bit different this year, I don't know that they're going to have the same type of power in the lineup now that Caden Grice and Billy Amick are gone. You bring in Jimmy Overtop from Michigan. He's going to provide plenty of pop in the middle of that lineup. But those are two guys that hit a lot of home runs last year. I think you'll see Will Taylor's home run numbers go up a little bit. Wouldn't be shocked to see Cantarella's go up a little bit. Mathis is a guy that's got some pop in his bat. Alden Mathis transfer. He's going to be a guy that's going to be in the lineup every day. And Parks has got some pop in his lineup if he plays every day, which I think he might once we get to that point in the season and they get everything worked out the way they want to. He's played right field every scrimmage I've been at. So that to me, that would be the only thing. The only difference from last year when it comes to the lineup is it might not have quite the same amount of pop, but they got enough contact hitters, 1 to 9, who put the ball in play and get on base, and they got enough speed from top to bottom where they don't need that pop. They'll be able to manufacture some runs and be aggressive on the bases and do some things that way if they need to. And I think the pitching's finally starting to get developed and starting to come around. Some of those guys that have been there for a little while now, like Austin Gordon. I think he's going to take a big jump this year. He was really good in the Cape Cod League over the summer. He was on Team USA. He was really good. And even though I've not seen it personally, every time I've seen him, he's gotten lit up. Backett said today, Tristan Smith's taking a huge jump. He also had a very strong summer. I think he played in the Cape Cod League too. And Billy Barlow is a guy that I thought was going to start last year before he got hurt. He was one of the best looking pitchers. I think he's going to be really good too. And Matt Marshall's a proven commodity. Any tape of the quarterback that played with Peter Woods? I saw something on Twitter about him and us. I'm gonna need a name there. I can't ever put a. You got to give me a name. I can't remember every kid's high school. I'm getting old. Do you think this baseball team is a 40-plus win team? I think this team's better this year than it was last year. I'll say that. But you also got to get, you got to get a couple breaks to go your way, man. You got to stay healthy first and foremost. It's sports. You just don't ever know, and particularly with baseball. But I do think that this team should be better than the team last year. You got more pitching. You just got so much more pitching depth. Everybody's healthy, and they're not going to take chances with those guys. Anybody listen to Backus today, he talked about that today. They're going to take it slow with some of them to try and ensure that none of those guys get hurt the way they did last year. I'm not sure. They saw after fall ball last year they saw Austin Gordon, thought he needed a break. Eric Backus said today he's a big believer in pitchers just putting the ball down for a stretch of 2 or 3 months at some point during the offseason. And after fall ball last year, they made Austin Gordon do that. So it might take him a little bit longer to get amped back up to start this season. But they've tried to take a different approach with the pitchers as opposed to the last staff. I think you're going to see some more luck from a health standpoint when it comes to the pitching. And, just already on paper, you got so much more depth than you did last year. So I think this team's going to be better than last year. Does that mean they're going to take a 16-game winning streak into the regional, 16, 17-game winning streak into regional play? Probably not. I don't think they're going to get off to the kind of slow start they did last year either, though. Somebody has to transfer for the staff to go into the portal for a defensive end. No, they've got room. If they wanted to go to the portal, they've got room. Paul Tyson's not going to be on scholarship next year. They're actually under the 85 right now. Golly, one of the offensive linemen's not coming back, so they're under the 85. Brian Williams, he's the offensive lineman, is not going to be back. Backus did not name the starters today. No, he said he didn't know yet that the guys were not. Everybody's not stretched out yet. Some pitchers are going to be on a tight pitch count this weekend. He mentioned Austin Gordon in particular, but no, he didn't announce the rotation yet. He said what it is this weekend probably won't be what it is 2 weeks from now either. Never hear anything about the QB coach. Who is the coach? Does he need to be replaced? The quarterback coach is Garrett Riley. He's been in the job for 1 year. Yeah, I hear during football season, Garrett Riley's a name I hear a lot of. But that's your quarterback coach, and I don't know why he would need to be replaced. Trent Seaborn. Oh, he's a 2027 guy. No wonder I couldn't think of who you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know, man. We're 18 months from those guys even for Clemson even starts handing out 2027 offers. It's just way too early to know anything on that just yet. Klubnik gets hurt, Clemson's in big trouble. Yeah, you can say that a lot of teams. If their starting quarterback gets hurt, they're in big trouble. Maybe not every team, but probably more than not. It's never ideal to lose your starting quarterback. And I don't think anybody knows just yet where Chris Vezina is going to be come in the spring, in the fall, start of next season. Nobody can tell us that yet. He's a guy that's going to get a lot more reps in practice as opposed to last year because he's going to be the backup as opposed to the third guy. And obviously he was redshirting last year, so he's a guy that can take a big jump. Even though he might still need another year, he might be ready to go. Team is under 85 Schollies. Do they go get a QB out of the portal? Dabo Sweeney's already answered that question. No, he likes the quarterbacks he's got. People forget Trent Pemberton's on that roster. You're talking about a 3-time player of the year in this state. That kid's good. He gets a little overlooked at times. I mean, but in a pinch, he might be a guy that could win some games for you. If he's an inch or two taller, he's probably got a lot more interest coming out of high school than he did. He's only 6 foot. But no, I don't expect Clemson to take a portal. Matter of fact, they even brought in a PWO, a kid named Ethan Anderson out of JL Man. So you got Klubnik, Vazina, Pierman, and while Tyson's not going to be on scholarship, he's still going to be around. So if they need him, he would be able to play. And then you got a couple of you got Ethan Anderson, and there's one more walk-on kid they got. But no, they're not going to take a quarterback. And it's going to, when your starter is already known and there's not really an open competition, it makes it very difficult to go to the portal and get a quarterback. Clemson got fortunate and was able to get a couple guys going that route, Hunter Johnson and Paul Tyson. But I don't see where going and getting a guy like that adds anything to the roster as it is right now. Because you've already got Paul Tyson. He's just not on scholarship. He's just not going to be on scholarship. Last Monday, I actually said it wrong. I said me and Zach was going to do a big baseball show on Thursday. I was saying it wrong. I was supposed to say this Thursday, not last Thursday. So we're going to do a big baseball preview show Thursday night. Might have a special guest on with us. Keep your eyes out for that. If you have not done so, please hit that subscribe button. We would very much appreciate it. Appreciate everybody jumping on here with us on a Tuesday. Had to put it off for a day this week. My kid had something last night I needed to go to. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight on a different night. I don't like to, I make it a point to say I'm going to be here every Monday night. So I don't like it when I have to move the show or say no show tonight. So that will not happen very often. We will routinely be here on Monday nights throughout the off season, just like we were during the season. Every now and then there might be a day we have to push it to Tuesday, but for the most part, every Monday, 7 p.m. right here, All Clemson's YouTube channel. Again, I got a little story coming tomorrow about Cortez and his upcoming visit. Gave y'all the preview of that tonight. I don't think anybody else has that yet. If they do, I haven't seen it. Until next week. Again, appreciate it. Again, I got to make sure I say this, man. I appreciate all y'all that tune in, man, every week. Yeah, we have a pretty good time here on Mondays and every now and then on Tuesdays. Don't forget, baseball show on Thursday and right back to our regularly scheduled time slot on Monday next week. See y'all then.